Hey guys, welcome to Points of Measure. Thank you so much for joining me on my new series, DIY Technical Design. I'm super excited, but I know it's super duper expensive to get into fashion in the first place, especially if you're already writing on like student debt from going to design school. Like, don't get me even started. So that's why I'm really here to show you guys how to do it yourself. So I am super excited that you guys are along for the ride. I know some of this content is probably going to be somewhat dry. It can be really complicated, especially this first section, which is how to create your own tech pack template. It definitely is like not the most exciting thing, but I'm going to try to edit this so that it is more interesting. So with your template, the great thing about it is that it lives forever. If you need to change something as you go down the road, you can just change it on the template and then use that new template going forward. It's not like you have to work backwards and fix everything. It's a really great tool to be able to just keep using over and over and over again. What is a tech pack? A tech pack is basically your blueprint for what your garment is going to be. It's going to give your factory, the people you're sourcing from, you, any of your team members, all of the information that you need in order to develop your product. So that's going to include several sections. You have a front page, which is going to be your cover page. It's basically just a page to have the sketch be clean. It doesn't have any call outs on it, so that the factory can go back and look at that. And so they can just really see like the silhouette of the garment, what it's gonna look like, and any of the details if somehow they got covered up. On the cover page, there's also a formula to populate to the other pages. You want to make sure that your header is on all pages because you're not always going to be printing out the whole tech pack. And I also like to include a sketch on that header. Alright, so in your header, you're going to be including your style number, your size range, your brand, the season that it's in or being developed in, any names of, special people within your company that maybe the factory will be dealing with, the factory that you're using or sourcer that you're using, and then, of course, your name or contact information. Really, you can change it up to whatever information is pertinent. After you've created your cover page, you're going to copy over that same format, and then you're going to make a construction details page. You could call this your callouts page, details page, construction page. Really, the sky's the limit, as long as you give it a title that's descriptive. Your callout page is going to house your sketch with any callout details for stitches, seam types, and special construction. This page is going to be where you have your graded spec. It's basically just where you're going to be housing all of your garment specifications. That's why I like to call it the graded spec. And the reason that I like to call out that it is the graded spec is because not only are you going to have your sample size measurements on it, you're also going to have what your grade is. Next up is your BOM page, and your BOM page stands for Bill of Materials. This is basically just a page to organize all of the elements that are going to go in to create your design. So your fabric, your thread, any packaging. You'll call out the placement of it, the color of it in some instances, how many of each, if there are certain finishes on it. That will all be called out on this page. Next up is your colorway sheet, and that's why I said that not always are you going to call out your colors on your BOM. Your colorway sheet is basically just your sketches, all colored in the colors you want. Let's say you had a color called Blue Dolphin, and it's a gray and blue sweatshirt. You'll have the sketch that shows it, and then you'll also have it called out on the bottom, like Blue Dolphin, body, blue, Pantone number, sleeves, gray, Pantone number. And so then it's much more clear for the factory, and they have all of your Pantones right there. The next page is going to be your proto review page. So in the proto page, this is really where your factory is going to get all of the information that they need and be required to give you some of the information that you need when you're going back to review your sample. So you're going to have your POM codes with your garment specifications, and then you're going to have the tolerance and what you're calling out as your specs for this specific garment. I like to put these numbers on the proto review page when I send the tech pack out. On the proto review page, you'll also have a space for the factory to put their measurements, and then you'll have a place for your measurements that you've checked once the sample comes in, and then you'll have a place for what change you're going to be making to the specs, and then what the new specs are. Then on the right hand side is the comment section where you'll be able to, once the garment comes back in and you've reviewed it, you can write down any comments. I have a full comment structure that I'll be going over later in the series and giving you way more details on this. This is really just like an overview of how to format and create your own tech pack. The last visible page on your tech pack is going to be your P1 photos page. And it's basically just a blank page with your header. And this is for when your protos start to come in, you want to make sure that you're photographing them on your modeler form and including that so that if you're referencing anything specific, the factory can see it. The POM page is basically just a list of your POMs, and we'll get more in detail about how to write your POMs, what they are, and all of that in one of the later sections of this series. But just know that that is where you're going to house them, and that's how you are going to be able to use VLOOKUP, which we will also be going over in this section. So VLOOKUP is a function that you can put into your Excel cells, and basically what it does, I'm just going to put it really simply, VLOOKUP is basically just going to take information from a chart we've created and then put it into another place. Everything is delineated by its POM code, which is literally just a number. You could have it be letters, you could have it be whatever you want. And when you put those POMs into your graded spec, it will populate all of that information. So you'll be putting in the spec, and then it will put in the tolerance, and it'll also put in your grade. And the way that I'm going to show you to do it, it will calculate from your sample size, based on your grade, what the rest of the measurements should be. So in that POM page, what you're going to list out is you're going to have your POM code, you're going to have your POM description or garment spec, whatever you want to call it, your tolerance, and then you're going to have your grade. When you put that number into your sample size, it'll calculate everything out. All right, so we're going to talk about how to use a tech pack. How do you use it to produce your product? So what you're going to do is you're going to take the technical sketches and construction callouts and everything and put those inside of the tech pack. Then you will take the POMs, figure out what POMs apply to your garment, put those on the graded spec page or on the proto review page, whichever you prefer for your first proto, and then you will determine what the specs are for that specific garment that correspond to your POMs. Then you will also include any information about what fabric it's made of, what trims. Once you have the full tech pack filled out, then you'll just go ahead and send all of that information to either your liaison, or it's called an agent in the industry, or to your factory. And I typically just send it as an email. Of course, you could use like a different service like Dropbox or something like that, but typically I'll just email it to the factory. So there's 3 different, I would say, categories for tech packs. There's like a 1-page tech pack, which I feel like I see pretty commonly on like Instagram and stuff. That's great for if you're doing really simple things, or if you're so familiar with your factory that they don't need a ton of information from you, or maybe you've already made the garment multiple times and it's just like a small update or something like that, I don't like using a one-page tech pack. It's really inefficient. I think it's really sloppy, and I think that there can be like a lot of missing information. However, I did want to bring it up because I'm sure a lot of you are basically just starting out, and it might be easier and make more sense to do it that way. So you're more than welcome, of course, to, you know, I would just look them up on Google, like just look up one-page tech pack, and I'm sure there'll be tons of examples for you to look at. But that is totally a route that you can take if it's right for your business. So the other two categories, I've created a tech pack template for each. That's the tech packs that you can buy on my website. Of course, I'm telling you exactly how to make them in this video as well, so you're more than welcome to just DIY them. But if you don't want to take the time to do all that DIY work, then you can just go ahead and purchase them on my website. They're super affordable, and if you're on my subscriber list, then you've already received a discount. So the first category is sketches and specs. So it's basically just sketches with your construction callouts. It gives them any information they need for constructing the garment, and then it just has your garment specs, so your POMs and your sample size spec measures. I actually find that that's really common with a lot of my clients that I work with for freelancing. Usually they don't need all of that information for bill of materials and colors and all of that stuff, that because they're so small, their factory is much more like customer service heavy. So they're really working with them to basically say, this, we have access to this fabric and it would work for your style, kind of a thing, instead of you being like, this is the fabric that I want. So if you're kind of in that situation where you're working really heavily with your factory and you're not quite sure what all of these answers are, then that might be a good place to at least start. And then once you get more comfortable and more familiar with the process, then you can move up to a tech pack that's maybe more. The last type of template is the main one that I'm showing you guys today, and that is all like a full tech pack. It has everything that you need in it. The great thing about using or having a full tech pack template is that you can dumb it down as much as you want. That's why I think personally that it's better to start with a more detailed tech pack template, and then you can edit it and change it to be a little bit more simple. So that's going to have, you know, everything in it: your cover page, your POM page, colorway sheet, your BOM proto review page, graded spec, and a P1 photos page. All right, I wanted to touch on one additional thing, which is PLMs versus Excel. So obviously in this tutorial, I'm teaching you guys how to create and manage tech packs with software that you already have and can use as an individual or small business. In most cases, if you're a larger company, or I mean even smaller apparel companies, but most companies use a PLM, which is a product lifecycle management tool, and that basically is where all of your tech packs are housed. Your factory also has access to it, so any updates, you can just make it directly there, and it's like a cloud-based type of system. And so it's super easy to just go in and make updates. Other people on your team can see it. If you're using the method that I'm showing you today, obviously it's not that seamless, but a PLM system to integrate it for your company is like hundreds of thousands of dollars. So I think that this Excel method is actually really efficient. It's super cost effective. It's actually what I used when I was in the industry. So it definitely works, and it can work for a big team, but I just wanted to touch on the fact that like there are systems out there specifically for this that, like, you know, companies like Nordstrom and stuff use, and it's called a PLM, and Of course, as your company grows, you can think about if that's something that you want to integrate. One of the main rules for creating and using a tech pack is please, 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 if you take anything away from this at all, do not duplicate information. Never duplicate information, because it only creates a way for you to make a mistake. So just have the information that you need in one place. Don't have it on the BOM and on the colorway sheet. Only have it in one place. That way there's no like, oh, I forgot to copy it over or update it on this other page. There's one place to change it, and that's it. Okay. Now that we've cleared that up, let's keep going.
To create the format for your first page of your tech pack, the cover page, first open Excel. You'll just be greeted with the regular Excel interface. We'll be creating a large box from A to S and from 1 to 53. You can go ahead and go into the printing format to make sure that it's just one page. In the first row, from A to S, merge and center the cells. Enter your title for your cover page. I'm entering Technical Sketch. On the far left-hand side, we're going to make a box for the logo. From A to E and from 2 to 7. Go ahead and merge and center the cells. On the far right-hand side, we'll be making another box for your technical sketch. Go ahead and merge and center the cells from S and then from 2 to 7. In between the two boxes you just created, you can create several columns for your heading information. Below your heading information, you can make one large box from 8 to 46 and from A to S. This will be where your large technical sketches will be housed. In row 47, you can merge and center the cells from A to S. This can be the header for your notes section. The following rows are just a lined notes section. Add borders and fills and adjust the cells as necessary to get the formatting that you'd like. You can then enter your titles. Change your tab to say Text Sketch. You can now move on to the next page. The next page, Construction Details, is just a copy of your first page. Right-click on the tab and choose Move or Copy. Copy the page and rename the tab to be Construction Details. You can change the top header to also say Construction Details. This will be the first page where you enter the if function into the header in order for your data to copy to all pages. I will include the if function in my blog post, which is linked below. You can now fill in the if function for each section. To test if the if function is working correctly, go to your cover page and start entering data into your cells. If they populate to your construction details page, then you know that the functions have worked correctly. You can see here that I've checked my functions and they look good on the construction details page. However, the date is showing as a number. All we have to do is go into the cell and change the formatting to be short date instead of general. Confirm that all your cells are showing as you'd like and edit any that need the formatting changed. To keep your formatting with your if function in your header, just copy your construction details page to create the next page. Your next page is your BOM page. Update the page title to say Bill of Materials and update the tab to say BOM. Unformat all of the cells below your header. Reformat the lower section into a series of columns and rows. Merge and center the cells so that you come up with something a little bit like this. Change the column or row widths, add titles, and add fills to make it a little bit more organized. Again, copy and paste the template from the construction details page. Update the title and the tab to say colorways. Unformat the lower notes section and create a series of columns and rows to call out your colorways. Add fills, borders, and titles to organize the information. For the graded spec page, go ahead and use the same template by copying the construction details page and changing the title and tab name to graded spec. Unformat all of the cells below the header. Create a series of columns. You will need 3 columns plus the number of sizes that you have in your size range. Again, format the cells with fills, borders, and titles to look a little something like this. I like to highlight the sample size with a gray fill. Again, copy and paste the formatting from the construction details page to create your proto review page. You will have 10 columns, your POM number, garment specs, tolerance, the original request, your factory measurements, the measurements that you took from the first sample, a column to call out if the measurements came in above or below spec, what the change will be, and the final column is to create a new request for the next sample. The 10th column is a larger column for your comments. Create these columns and use the same method of formatting that we've used for the rest of the tech pack. Use fills, borders, and titles to make an organized review sheet. The P1 Photos page is just a copy of your construction details page. Just copy and paste it to the end of the tech pack and change the tab title and the page title to say P1 Photos. Your final page is the POM page. This is where all of your POMs will be stored, and the VLOOKUP will use this table to input that information into your graded spec. The POM page, much like your graded spec page, needs 3 columns plus the number of sizes you have in your size range. It's up to you how you'd like to format this last page, as no one will be looking at it but you. Here's an example of what mine looks like. I've added borders, fills, and titles to help keep me organized. Now that you have your POM page set up, we can go back to the graded spec page and input the VLOOKUP formula into the garment specs column and the size columns. Drag the formulas down from the top row until you get to the bottom of your graded spec page. This will copy all of the formulas. Once you input the VLOOKUP functions, make sure to fix any formatting. You may need to change the cell formatting in order for the data to represent accurately. For example, I had to change my POM number column to text formatting. To test that your formulas have worked, make sure that you have some data already on your POM page. Input the number from your POM page onto your graded spec and watch as the data fills in automatically. To make sure that your grade is calculating as well, fill in your sample size with a number. The VLOOKUP formula is complicated. I've added on the blog a link to a great website that explains what VLOOKUP is and what it's capable of. I'm not going to go into too much detail, but you can head to the blog. The link is in the description, and you can find the formula there.